Howdy, howdy. I don't know where that came from. But I'm not sorry. Howdy apparently is the greeting of the day. My grandpa always used to say greetings when we would walk in, and I've never heard anybody else use that as their staple greeting before, and I just love it. So, howdy, greetings. How are you? Happy summer if you're listening to this real time. We have an appropriately summer themed episode today, and it's going to be a little off the cuff. I was thinking about what would be timely and what would feel useful, but also feel a little light and energizing because it's summer right now. Let's have a productive conversation that invites in some ease and lightness and summer fun. And also kind of sets us up for a solid rest of the year, shall we? So, we're going to do a mini mid-year decision audit. Now, I have to tell you, back in episode 60, we did a mid-year reflect and reset episode, and that had a downloadable exercise. So, if you are in the mood to get a pen and paper out and just sit down with yourself and do some real mental work, I would hit that episode up and I would go to kirstenparker.com/60, the number six, the number zero, and download that exercise. Today's episode is going to be a little more freeform. I want you to be able to do this in the car or do this on a dog walk if that's where you're at. So we're going to keep it a little simplified. I don't think either's better. I think just sometimes we're in the mood to work a little harder and work a little less. And I think you know what I mean. So I just have a few questions I'm going to run you through, just like we were in a coaching session. If you were my client and we were talking about the rest of the year, it's the middle of the year. By the way, you can do this anytime. Obviously, you can do what you want, but this doesn't just apply to the middle of the year. But if you're looking ahead and you wanted to check in with, am I being intentional? Am I setting myself up to end up where I want to be? Am I setting myself up to end up very far away from where I would like to be 6 months or a year from now? That's what this conversation is going to be for. Because while, yes, we are tired and we just want to lounge and have a poolside margarita. Well, for me, it's a white wine in a jacuzzi, but pick your poison. While we want that, and while we need that relaxation and kind of regrouping in the summer, and also just we need to have fun, we know, we also want to get some stuff done this year. We don't want to go into the fall feeling frantic, and we definitely don't want to go into the fall feeling behind. And we don't want to end the year feeling disappointed. We don't want to have that rear view mirror experience where we're like, why didn't I pay attention to this? Or this is something I really wanted to check off the list this year. How am I kicking it to next year again? So that's what we're balancing with this conversation today. The truth is, wherever you want to be at the end of the year or this time next year, my guess is there are little things that you can do this month or this summer or this season, whenever you're listening to this, that will make a huge impact on your trajectory and your end results. And we don't want you to miss out on those for no good reason. First, I would just like you to give yourself some space to think about this question. What do you want to have achieved or experienced or changed 6 to 12 months from now? I know it's a multi-part question, so break it up if you need to. And in simpler terms, what do you want to be different by the end of the year or by this time next year? What do you want to have achieved? If there is something that's really in that achievement bucket, you want to finish that certification or you want to hit this professional or personal milestone over here. What do you want to have experienced by the end of the year or by this time next year? Is there someone you have been wanting to visit? Is there somebody's baby you need to meet? Is there somewhere in the world you want to see? Is there a vacation you need to take because you haven't taken one yet this year? Or what do you want to be different? What do you want changed? Do you want to move? Do you want to get that new job? Do you want to finish that book? Do you want to have connected with new people? Do you want to have picked up a hobby? I know I'm throwing a lot of suggestions at you here, but I promise that's not in the spirit of overwhelm. We're just asking your brain to travel in time to its ideal version of the picture, the movie of your life in your mind, and look at the best case scenario and pay attention to it. Ideally, by the end of the year or by this time next year, whatever works for you, what's the movie look like? If you are feeling any overwhelm, it's probably because your brain is going into logistics or scarcity or thinking about all of the obstacles and I don't know where to start, or I don't even know how to do that, or I don't even know if that's possible. And I'm going to invite you to breathe and I'm going to remind you that we're not there yet. We are not in logistics planning yet. We don't logistics plan from a stressed brain. Probably should have mentioned this at the beginning, but please don't do this exercise if you're stressed right now. Please take a second to ground your nervous system, shake your limbs out, lower your cortisol, maybe. I also want you to pay attention to the way you're asking yourself this. I am currently asking you these questions the way I would if we were in a coaching session. But the framing effect is a cognitive bias that has a big impact on how we think. So I want you to make sure you're not limiting yourself out the gate here. If you frame a question to yourself like, what do I think I can get done in only 6 months? You're going to come up with very different answers than if anything were possible, what would life look and feel like 6 months from now? Notice how in the first version of the question, you've framed it as I only have limited time. What do you think is possible and realistic, which are loaded, subjective terms? You're setting yourself up to only be able to see certain options. I don't want you to underestimate your brain's ability to start changing its perception of what's possible based on where we are in the calendar. It's bananas. Think about how open and full of possibility life feels on January 1st. It's because we are conceiving of this long 12-month runway with this clean slate. Like the year is ahead of us. Anything is possible. So if you're listening to this episode real time, the same amount of time that has passed since January 1st is before us, before the end of the year. There are still 6 months, 6 whole months ahead of us until the end of the year. But our brains, these sneaky buggers, that are very influenced by the framing effect, can very easily see, oh, we only have 6 months left. We're already halfway through the year. I haven't done any of this stuff so far. So why would I expect anything different in the next 6 months? So just pay attention to how you're asking these questions. Use the language that I'm suggesting if you want a shortcut, and let yourself really be honest. The biggest mistake that people make when they are game planning and goal setting is they keep shrinking this part of the process because they want to get to the logistics and they want to get to the, oh, what's realistic and how am I going to do that? And when are we going to start? But I promise you are going to love implementing your game plan a heck of a lot more if you've actually given yourself real time and permission to be unfiltered about what you really want. That's the juice. That's how we find out, oh, I actually do want to see the lavender fields in Provence, or I actually do want to finish my book. And if you're having a little trouble getting specific when you answer these questions, I have some tricks for you. One super effective and sometimes really fun, sometimes slightly stressful question, but I'm going to share it nonetheless, is what would be disappointing if it weren't done or different a year from now? So I want you to think about either life as it is right now today, or this kind of later list that we accumulate in the back of our minds, like stuff we think we'll get to or we hope to eventually figure out. If you look at that later list or you look at life right now as it is, and I ask you that thing specifically right there, the remodel, finishing the book, going on a vacation, starting your podcast, that thing right there. If that were not different 6 months from now, how would you feel? If that were the same, so like still not done, still not figured out, whatever, in the exact same condition a year from now, how would you feel? Sometimes it's easy for us to just keep things on the later list and not get specific about them because they don't feel urgent and pressing, which is fine until it isn't. right? So do yourself this favor, do your future self this favor by just checking in on how you feel. Sometimes we can find out, boom, I have no feelings about that. I actually don't care if this isn't done for 5 years. Great to know. Maybe we take it off the list and we actually decide we're not going to do that. Or maybe we delegate it because we are being honest that we are never going to do that. And in other cases, you might find out, oh, I don't have a deadline around that. But if I fast forward a year and it's completely the same and nothing is different, I'll actually be really sad or I'll actually be really disappointed. Great information. We can use that information to retrofit a plan that you can probably take some action on today. And maybe you don't have a bunch of unfinished business or projects that you want to start or grow or finish. Maybe you just completed a season of massive change and you are not looking to move jobs or houses or make any giant changes to your life, but you still want to be intentional with your time. Great. My question for you is I want you to look around your life, maybe pay extra attention this week, and just notice what feels hard. What have you gotten used to feeling hard, challenging, difficult, frictiony, draining? This can be a little harder because we do get used to things being hard. And we don't see these things as problems we need to solve this instant to make our whole lives better. So sometimes it can take a little extra attention to notice, oh, you know what? Every single month, I have this massively stressful day because I organize the finances for my business and they're always a mess or something. Or, oh, you know what? I've gotten used to, but kind of just feels icky and someone else pointed out to me recently that maybe it wasn't necessary. Coordinating my kids' drop off schedule and pickup schedule is this just massive time suck that I've gotten used to. But wow, 6 months from now, I would love that to feel easier, more effortless, more automated. All of these answers combined, everything that you come up with, which is how you would love life to look and feel by the end of the year or by this time next year, you can use that to work your way backwards into a game plan. And look at that. You already set a goal. Great. You already have a deadline. Fabulous. Now you get to think about, does that require any action on my part this summer? Maybe not today, maybe not this week, but sometime soon and for the rest of your life. No, what might you have to do in the next month or two to keep that goal moving, top of mind? Or is there anything really actually time sensitive that we need to get to now? Like we said, it can feel really easy for this not to feel urgent. This stuff has not been presenting as a fire potentially in your life. So, again, going back to our framing effect, it might be less effective to ask, what do I have to do now? Because you might not have to do anything because nothing is technically on fire. A different way of asking that same question, though, framed differently, is there a good reason to not act now? Is there a good reason to wait on this thing that I know I want to be different later? There could be good reasons, but we want you checking and consciously making those decisions rather than letting your brain biases just decide for you. Meh, this can wait. And if you are going to take any action now or within the next month or two, do yourself a quick favesies and put it in writing somewhere. Put it on your calendar. Send yourself an email. Put it in your Asana or your to-do app or however you organize that stuff. Take one action now to make it official and start the fire burning, right? We don't need a whole dangerous situation, but we do need a little heat on this. So if you take an action now, it reinforces the momentum that you want to put behind this change that you want to create. If you're not going to take any action now, if you are in a place where you're like, I am in summer fun mode, I am not doing anything right now. I definitely know I want this to be different in my life a year from now. And I have total permission to deal with it in September because that's not too late. Great. I still want you to take some action right now. Even if that's just putting a thing in your calendar for September that says, hey, do something about this thing. We can make it as simple as that. If it feels like you're in danger of never taking action on this, or it just feels too complicated to get started, or you're overwhelmed about all of the consequences or sacrifices or risks or the decisions that are involved, that is where people like me can come in very handy on your team to help you actually take one step at a time and keep yourself moving to create the change you really want that really matters to you. So that's where you can reach out, kirstenparker.com/schedule. We can talk one-on-one to find out how would coaching help you and what would be most effective and most fun for you right now. I work with people one-on-one. I work with people in small groups, and there are lots of different ways that work for lots of different people. So we can talk about how coaching can help you end up where you want to end up by the end of the year. But I hope it's been fun giving yourself this dog walk or this drive to do some expansive thinking and ask yourself questions in an intentional way. Open the door for some really honest, unfiltered answers and see what you come up with. It's such a big gift to yourself to just take one tiny break from the logistics of your life and the day-to-day busyness and think about, where do I want to end up, and really let yourself enjoy it. So I hope that that's what this episode was for you. Us hanging out, just thinking expansively about your future. Why not? This is your one and only life. Why don't we make sure that you end up where you want to be? If you want immediate help and you only want to focus on one thing right now, one goal, one project, one priority, one change, I suggest you hop into the Alignment and Accountability Club right friggin' now. It's going to be at least through the summer, and it is a chance for us to meet in a small group for coaching 2 to 3 times a month. We're talking on Slack almost every day. You're getting weekly evaluations that guide you through thinking about this goal and your progress in an intentional way. And we're having a lot of fun in there, and we're getting a lot done in the ways we want to get things done. So that link is in the show notes if you want to hop into that and join us. In the meantime, happy mid-year, happy June, happy summer. And I'll see you next week. Hey, want to find out your decision style? Obviously, go take the decision style quiz. It's in the show notes and at kirstenparker.com/quiz. We all have our style when it comes to making decisions, but do you know how to use your default way of thinking to your advantage? Or do you mainly get stuck in the most annoying parts of overthinking and people pleasing? The decision style quiz has your answers, my friend. Take it right now at kirstenparker.com/quiz.